Hello there. Happy Thursday, getting to another end of the week here. This is the second to last week of 5 full episodes. Last week we did the final one until this show goes down to 3 a week. For today's show, we're going to get into the Johan Larsson stuff. Looked like the Penguins are going to sign him, but then it's been basically crickets ever since. I'm going to go into, if it does end up happening, why it will be a really good signing, I think, for the Penguins. Also going to get into why this team right now needs a lot more goals for next year, why they need another finisher, which is why, they got to crush that trade with a defenseman whenever that does happen. And then hopefully at the end, I'm going to get into my way too early lines and pairings based on what we have right now for next season. So that's all coming up right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at @LO_Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So, right during Ron Hextall's press conference yesterday, it was right after he started it. Elliot Friedman said, sounds like it's going to be Johan Larsson to Pittsburgh. And I was like, this is actually pretty exciting. Really good defensive forward. I think he is someone who I think a lot of fans hoped Zach Aston Reese was going to turn into, especially I think from an offensive standpoint, someone who, can still chip in on the score sheet despite being one of the best defensive players in the league. And, you look at, the chart from JFresh Hockey with, has all of his data on there, 68th percentile for wins above replacement. He ranks in the 99th percentile for even strength defense. That means only 1% of his peers are better than him when it comes to being on the ice defensively. He is that good at suppressing shots and chances and all that other stuff. Offensively, 38th percentile at 5v5, so not the greatest there. But, for finishing, 50th percentile. So he's, smack in the middle in terms of finishing. Goals for per 60, 44th percentile. Penalty kill, I know it's only in the 22nd percentile, but he's usually been known for someone that can play on the penalty kill. So if this were to happen, and I know it hasn't been announced yet, I don't know if he's in their plans considering what Ron Hextall said yesterday. I would be a big fan of it. He's a great defensive player. I think he would do really well in the Sullivan style with what he likes to run. I think he would be a very great improvement for the third line. Someone who can, chip in offensively, whether it's at 5v5 or potentially on the penalty kill with some shorthanded goals. Someone who can just, take chances away every time he's on the ice. I think he would definitely be part of like a shutdown line for the Penguins. If he were to be signed, I don't think he would be that expensive. I think he would maybe be like a 1 or 2 year deal for, a couple million per year. If you do multi-years, if you just have to do 1 year, I think you can probably get, 2.5 million at the most. I think that will be a really shrewd signing. And, actually showing that the Penguins are using data, or I guess, more underlying numbers in their decisions. You go to natural stat trick from this past season. So played 29 games for Arizona, 14 games in Washington. And, when he went to Washington, he played very well at 5v5. When he was on the ice, the Caps had 55% of the shot attempts for, right around 50-50 for actual goals, but also 57% of the scoring chances, 61% of the high danger chances. And he was also only on the ice for 2 high danger goals against in 14 games. If we go to the playoffs here and look at that. So played in all 6 games for the Caps against the Panthers. Struggle a little bit just because I think the Panthers, they woke up as the series going on. The Caps only had 42% of the shot attempts when he was on the ice, only 33% of the actual goals for, 47% of the scoring chances. High danger, it was about 50-50, only 2 high danger goals against when he was there. So, I think it's partly due to the Caps just not generating enough offense in that series. But, when he was on the ice during the regular season, he played well. He's always been one of the best defensive players, one of the best defensive forwards, I should say, in the game. Again, when he's on there, basically, nothing happens. It's very low event hockey, I should say. But I think he would fit this system like a glove. It's unfortunate that it doesn't seem like it's gonna be happening right now. I put a tweet on the Locked On Penguins Twitter account saying, just like with the alien meme where he's just like sitting like this, like, okay, what's going on here? And Danny Shirey, he asked Hextall about it. He's like, can you confirm the report? And he just basically did this. He just had a full smile about it. And he's like, well, then I can confirm Josh Archibald's going to be a Penguin, and then stands there, smiles. I'm like, okay, I don't know if there's just gamesmanship there, or he was just talking with the agent and it didn't go anywhere. I don't know. It kind of reeks of, what happened with Nick Delorier. I want to say that was last year, last April. I remember when it was right before the trade deadline. And Friedman said, I'm hearing Nick Delorier in Pittsburgh, and no one else was reporting it. And I was like, okay, that's weird. And then he went back to his like, oh, sorry, I'm hearing that the Penguins were in discussions for him, but I don't know where that's going at this point. So, I think that could be a similar situation from what is happening here. But again, if the Penguins are to sign him at some point during the offseason, I think I would be a big fan of it. Whether he's playing with Jeff Carter in the third line, maybe he's sticking with Teddy Bluger. I think that will be a heck of a duo. We all know how good Bluger is in the defensive zone. He also, I think, brings a nice offensive punch. I think putting Larsson with him, that would be pretty solid, especially if you want to move Bluger up to the third line, maybe move Carter down to the fourth line and see if he can, be better with his minutes there. I think that would be something that, would be worth looking into. But, nothing right now. It was very quiet in Penguin land today. The development camp actually wrapped up today with a scrimmage. It looked like Owen Pickering was very good on the ice from what was being tweeted out. The video, I think that was tweeted out by a couple of the reporters that were there. So that wrapped up today. So now moving forward, it's all about the Penguins and, seeing if they can make a move with their defenseman forward, getting into that other scorer, maybe making a free agent splash. Something like that. And, speaking of a free agent splash, the Capitals made one today. They went after a player that, I was hoping the Penguins would go after, and Dylan Strome. I think, he's 1 year, $3.5 million. He can play center or wing, someone who I believe had almost 50 points with the Chicago Blackhawks. Actually, and those are good stats on a really bad team. Yeah, 22 goals, 48 points in 69 games. The Blackhawks said to this guy, yeah, we'll let you go. We're not going to pick up your qualifying offer, even though it was $3.6 million, and the Cap signed him for 1 times 3.5. So $100K difference. It was like, really, Chicago? You really couldn't do that? That's a good move by the Caps. They're probably going to put him, I think, at second line center until Nicholas Backstrom is ready to go, if he's ready to go at all. So, and Elliott did say there was a lot of interest in him. I hope the Penguins ran on him, and I wish they could have landed him because, he's definitely a finisher. And with how this team needs to replace goals right now, I think he could have given them a big offensive punch next season. And, that's going to be my main topic coming up here in this next segment for how the Penguins, they need that finisher and why it's prudent to get one, especially if they're looking to trade a defenseman. So that's coming up here in this next segment. But before I get to that, our next partner has a product I use literally every day. I started taking Athletic Greens because, didn't have time in the morning sometimes, wanted more energy when I would wake up, I wanted better gut health. But, what you're all probably now wondering, what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food, source superfoods, and probiotics to help you start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and your aging. I usually have consumed it, again, 8:30, 9 a.m. in the morning. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat, keto, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It supports better sleep quality and recovery. Also supports mental clarity and alertness. It's the one thing with the best things. Athletic Greens uses the best of the best products based on the latest science with constant product irritations and third-party testing. They have over 7,000 5-star reviews. It's recommended by a lot of professional athletes. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop and a cup of water every day, and that's it. Excuse me. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your gut health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at _ Penguins. Of course, thank you all so much for taking time out of your day to listen to this podcast. So, the more discussions about trades with the Penguins heated up today. I think Elliot Friedman went on Vancouver radio, confirmed that the Canucks have been still trying to trade for John Marino. But, Elliot did say last week, though, that he said the Penguins were close to moving Marino, but it wasn't to Vancouver. So maybe it was Ottawa, somewhere else. If this is what I'll say about the Marino stuff. If you were looking to trade Marino, it better not be for futures. One thing that did concern me when Ron Hextall was speaking to the media on Wednesday was like, after he said maybe trading for forward, he's like, we could move a defenseman for futures or something like that. I'm like, with where the lineup is at right now, you better not be trading any of those defensemen for futures. I really don't care about, getting a 3rd round pick in 2024 or I don't know, a 2nd round pick in 2024, something like that. I want a player who can help me win right now. Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin and Chris Letang, they are not getting any younger. So spare me that stupid future stuff. Sure, you get cap space. Yeah, that's a nice part. But, I would rather have someone who can be a finisher and who can contribute on the score sheet rather than just basically a coin flip if a pick is even ever going to make it to the NHL. And if he does make it to the NHL, it's several years down the line at that point when, the core, they're all going to be retired at that point. So honestly, who cares about getting, futures? Just go out and get someone who can score. So for Marino, and he'll definitely, I think, have a lot more trade value than almost any other defenseman on the team. I think outside of Chris Letang and Mike Matheson, he is the defenseman that has the most trade value on this team. He's young, good defensively in his own zone. If someone could also probably think that they can unlock the offensive ability in his game. And I think teams will pay out the butt for that. I think they will be willing to give up a potential 2nd or 3rd line scorer to get Marino. And that will be the only, type of player that I will be interested in getting for him. And which is why, I definitely come around on the idea of getting JT Miller from Vancouver and bringing him home. And yes, I've heard from around the grapevine that he badly wants to play in Pittsburgh next year. And, for a while after that, the Penguins can somehow lock him up to an extension, or if they can just get a trade package together, a trade for him, even though it's probably not a match, but, you never know with Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin. I've also heard the rumors for Connor Garland. I like Garland, but, are you winning that trade if Marino is going the other way? I think that's something that, not enough fans are discussing. I mean, he's a decent finisher, but, I'd much rather have Miller over Garland at that point. And, again, this just all goes back to my point that right now the Penguins lack another finisher. Your plan for next season, and this I'm talking to Penguins upper management, the coaching staff, and all these people here, you cannot go into next season with your thinking of, this forward group is good enough because we expect Rickard Rakell to score 20 to 25 next year. We expect Jason Zucker to score 25 next year, and we expect Kapanen to maybe score 15 to 20, probably 20 or something like that. Chances are all of that's not going to happen. Zucker, I do think he has 20 to 25 goal scoring, in him because, he's done it in his career, but obviously the biggest thing, his health. Hasn't stayed healthy at all during his Penguins tenure. When he has been healthy, he has produced, but it's all just keeping him on the ice. The potential has always been there, but until he actually proves that he can be on the ice, I'm going to be skeptical that he can put up those kind of numbers. Kasperi Kapanen, I think he is who he is at this point. Even during his good season when Rutherford traded for him a couple years ago, what do you have? Like 30 points in 40 games or something like that. I mean, okay, that's almost a point per game, but, only 10 of those were goals. I mean, last season, hit double-digit goals again, was better defensively, but still, that's it's not good enough for someone who, they gave up quite a bit to get that player. You also look at Rickard Rakell. I definitely think he has 20 to 25 goal scoring potential in him, but how is that going to happen? Are you going to play with Sidney Crosby? Is he going to play with Evgeny Malkin? Is he going to stay healthy? You got to account for all those things, because right now, the Penguins, they have to replace just about 40 goals off this team next year. Think about it. Evan Rodriguez, he is right now off this team. He scored 20 goals last year, right around there. Same with Danton Heinen, 18 goals last year. That's right around, you guessed it, 38 to 40 goals. And right now, they don't have a couple players on their roster that can do that. Josh Archibald, who they signed yesterday, he is not going to help to, contributing to 38 to 40 goals. He's probably just going to be in the press box most nights. He's just basically a 13th to 14th filler forward. It's $900K. He's not going to really do anything. You have to go out there in free agency and sign someone with a little cap space you have, or again, in a trade, when you have to move a defenseman, you have to go out and get a pure sniper that can score maybe 20 to 22 goals for you. And that's where, moving Marino makes the most sense for that. But I still do think if they end up moving Pettersson, I do think he can bring back a solid player that can play on the third line that can help contribute. Ron Hextall, he made some really nice signings after the day one of free agency last year, and those players, they were able to come in on cheap deals and produce. I don't know if that's in the cards here. Where's this year's Danton Heinen? Where is this year's Evan Rodriguez? They both have not signed yet as of this recording, which is, right around 8:04 on Thursday night. It has not happened yet. So, we'll have to see if the Penguins do circle back to one or both of those players. I honestly would not mind if Rodriguez did come back, because I really enjoyed watching Rodriguez this year, and, I think the big thing for him is, can he be consistent again? I shouldn't say again, but, can he be consistent for a full season instead of just showing up for that first half and then being bad in the second half and then showing up again in the playoffs? What is the real version of Rodriguez? But yeah, that just basically wraps up my thoughts on this whole, trade discussion here. They got to get a forward, a pure sniper back that can fill the back of the net and replace the 40 goals that they've lost right now that are currently unsigned on the free agent market. Because, you look at the bottom six right now, sure, Jeff Carter's there who scored 18 to 20 next year, but, can you count on him to do that again next year as he gets older? Getting a little bit skeptical. Teddy Bluger, I like him defensively. He has a little bit of an offensive punch. Are you going to rely on him to score 20 next year, 15, 20? Not really sure, all these other players right now in the bottom six, Drew O'Connor, Liam Zohorna, et cetera, who are going to be the player, Brock McGinn, obviously, who are going to be the players that steps up and give you those goals when it's not the top six basically doing it on an every night basis. The last couple of years, the Penguins have had one of the deepest, forward groups in the league. 2 years in a row. They've been very deep at center, been deep on the wings. Right now, it's lacking a little bit. So I don't think that this is far from a finished product. I think they are going to make a couple changes here before the season, especially with the trade. But right now, I definitely think, that bottom six needs a lot more oomph, when it comes to scoring goals. Now, coming up in the next segment, I'm going to get into the way too early 2022-2023 lines and pairings. Just basically touch on, what I would do based on right now before any trades are made. But, excuse me, before I get to that, from the people who invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift to your taste buds. You've probably tried the amazing coconut brownie chunk, Built Bar, but guess what? Your friends at Built have given coconut brownie chunk the Puffs treatment. That's right, a coconut brownie chunk Built Bar flavor you love in a deliciously chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. But stop drooling and listen. They are good for you, low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and all delicious. Coconut brownie chunk puffs are only here for a limited time. You can go to Built.com right now to make sure you don't miss out. They're going fast because they taste amazing. All Built Bars are made with good protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. You can eat something that tastes good and is good for you. You can go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, so let's get back into these lines and pairings that I have for next year. I was caught up for a split second because someone was texting me. I have no idea why. But for the first line, I would honestly have Jake Gensel, Sidney Crosby, and Rickard Rakell. I think if you want to get the most out of Rakell and make that AAV worth it, I think he should be on that top line because, the underlying numbers, they were really good when he was there. Penguins had, I believe, like close to 70% of the shot attempts, 4 per 60, over 60% of the scoring chances. High danger wise was well over 60%. His hands are very silky. Obviously he has one heck of a release. Just look at the goal against Detroit late in the regular season. It was that 7-2 win at Little Caesars Arena. I think that was before the game against Philadelphia the next day. And, he was just putting on a show on Sid's line. So, there's definitely been added history there. I like what Brian Rust has done on Crosby's line. And, when Sid was healthy in that first round series against the Rangers, they were absolutely dismantling New York every time they were on the ice. Gerard Gallant basically had nothing that could stop them. So, that said, I do like Rakell as a better fit because I think he can put the puck in the back of the net a bit more. And I also like his playmaking ability a bit more because, I think he'll be good with Malkin and he has put up decent numbers with Gino. But, I do think Malkin potentially plays a little bit better with Russ. He's also put up really good numbers with him. I would like to see more of a sample size with Rakell playing up with Sid. And I think if you do, you're going to see really good results with that. So that means the second line right now, at least, Jason Zucker, Evgeny Malkin, and Brian Rust. If Zucker's healthy, I think he can pot 20 to 25. I understand that is probably going to tune off some people on this show. You're probably going to think of me as a doofus, but he has the talent. That's never been an issue. We all know what his issue is. I said it about 5 to 10 minutes ago, but I made the bold prediction last year because I thought he was going to stay healthy. Maybe I'll think about making it again this year, but I do think he has the potential to pot 20 to 25. And he's also a great forechecker, probably one of the top 3 forecheckers on this team. He was playing his tail off in the playoffs for the Penguins. So, and that was when he was hurt. Imagine what he could do, when he's healthy. But, it sounds like his offseason, recovery is going really good right now. And hopefully, he's getting over what I was reported on this show was a torn groin after speaking with a couple of people. So, and then obviously with Brian Rust, he can put the puck in the back of the net. He also is a very nice passer. Malkin, he does it all, scores, puts the puck in the back of the net. He carries the puck into his own zone. When he's in his zone, good luck taking the puck off him. And I think you're going to see a very determined Gino next year. For God's sake, the guy was coming off major knee surgery last year, had 42 points in 41 games, was on pace for 84 points over a full season, was also on points to score close to 40 goals. He now has a full offseason to train and recovery and more. I think you are going to see someone be really ticked off next year. And I think he's going to have a big year for the Penguins. That's, when we get close to the season, I'm going to have a bold prediction when I get into that. I think right now on the third line, it's probably going to be Jeff Carter as your third line center with, I guess, Kasperi Kapanen on his right wing. Right now, I guess you have Drew O'Connor down there because Heinen and Rodriguez are no longer there. And, O'Connor, I think this is make or break time for him. He's, over, I believe he's 20, 25, 26 at this point. This is a player that, he should be finally putting his, mark on the Penguins and saying, I'm going to keep this spot for the long haul and not just keep it for, 10 games like he did last year. And obviously, injuries were a part of that, but, I think it's not up or shut out time with him. And I also would say the same for Radim Zohorna, who I think would be a good fit on the fourth line with Teddy Bluger and Brock McGinn. I think McGinn and Bluger right now, Sullivan loves playing them together. He sees them as, two players who can shut down the opposition. I think McGinn, he has a lot to prove next year. I was very high on that signing when it happened. The Penguins bet big that his goal scoring and his offensive production was going to continue going into last year. I think they lost that one. They're hoping they can get it back because right now, that contract 3 more years at $2.75 million for a fourth liner, that's not super good business, if you ask me. And For Bluger, I want to see more offense from him next year. I think he can definitely, put it on, but, he's someone who I want to see more of, because if he doesn't, I wouldn't be surprised if the Penguins potentially look to move on from him at some point after next season. Then for Zohorna, I think it's put up our shot time for him. He's on a one-way deal next year, which means I believe he'll have to clear waivers. If he's sent down to Wilkes-Barre and doesn't make the team. So, when you look at those lines, do you all think they need another scorer? I would love to push Jason Zucker down the lineup a little bit and put someone else on Evgeny Malkin's left wing that can really be a good finisher that this team needs. Say, you get a finisher in one of the defensive trades and you put him there with Malkin and Russ and then Gensel, Crosby, Raquel, you have the makings of a very, very top six. And, sure, does one of O'Connor or Zohorna go out? Yeah, but I still think your forward group at that point, it's not bad, especially if Carter can still score and if Kapanen bounces back. But still, I think you're banking on there's a lot of things going right this year that went wrong last year, to say the least. Defensively, Dumoulin, Letang, I don't think Dumoulin's going to be the one to get traded, even though I would trade him. I think at this point you can get a really decent return for him. Teams will definitely pay out the butt for a player who has won 2 Stanley Cups and is, good defensively in his own zone and stuff like that. I think you're going to see Matheson with Jan Ruda. I think that will be a really nice pairing. And then, right now I'm going to make a little bit of a bold prediction. I think you're going to see 2 defensemen get traded. I don't think they're going to go into the season with 8 defensemen on the roster. I think you're going to see, if I'm going to say right now, I think you're going to see 2 of them get moved. And right now, from what I have, I'm going to go POJ and Chad Ruhwedel. I think you might see both Pettersson and Marino traded. Right now, that is my big, bold prediction for this offseason, is that not one of them will be traded. I think both of them will be traded, whether one of them is for a future and then the other one is for an impact forward, or potentially 2 forwards come back and maybe Zohorna and O'Connor are not in the lineup. But, that is what I am thinking of right now when it comes to the offseason. You still have Mark Friedman down there as your number 7. I think that's still a pretty good defensive core. Dumoulin, if he bounces back, he can form a really great shutdown top pairing with Letang. Matheson does it all in the offensive zone. Jan Ruda, very stay-at-home defenseman, good, underlying numbers in his own zone, someone who can also join the rush at times. I like that as a second pairing. And then, it's also time to see what POJ can do as a full-time regular NHLer. And Chad Ruhwedel, I think he is steady as he goes. I think he was, a little bit gassed down the stretch last year. But I think if you just give him the regular third pairing minutes, and maybe you scratch him for a few games if he's getting gassed, and you put Mark Friedman in there, who's a pretty good defenseman, I think you live with that at that point. And then obviously Tristan Jarry starts in that, and then Casey DeSmith backs him up. So right now, that's my way too early Penguins lineup for next year. Let me know what you all think in the comments on YouTube. You can DM me on social media and stuff. Would you change anything? Do you think some of these players should be off the team? Do you expect any of these players to have a bounce back year? Let me know. I would love to discuss that with you all. And, if you could add a finisher to this team when they have to trade a defenseman, who would that be? So just wanted to have you all think about that before I wrap this up. So, overall, again, that will do it for this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I really appreciate all of you listening to this one. We will be back with another episode for you all on Friday. We'll see if the Penguins potentially do something there when it comes to a potential cheap depth signing in free agency, or if they finally make that trade for a defenseman going out. So I will talk to you all then. Hope you have a great rest of your Thursday.